Alright, Diablo players, let's talk about it. Is Vessel of Hatred worth getting? Is a very frequently asked question within the past couple days. While I was live streaming, a lot of people are like, hey, I just saw that it's free on PlayStation. Do I need to get the expansion? I'm kind of having some fun. Do you think the expansion is actually worth it? So there's a lot of additions in this game in terms of like, which one to actually purchase. And I want to tell you, there really isn't anything that's super important. Like there are a bunch of different cosmetics and I'll cycle through them, but really you just want the base game if you are interested in it. And let me go ahead and answer the question for you, is it actually worth it, and show you guys kind of exactly what is available if you do happen to purchase the expansion, because it's kind of subjective if it's going to be worth it for you. So for starters, one of the newer areas you're going to unlock is Nahantu, which is in this like bottom lower region. So the whole map is basically what I'm showing up on the screen right here. We have these 5 regions. This extra region is Nahantu. That is the next area, and it actually is quite long for the campaign. The campaign is about the same as like the base game. It's actually a very lengthy process, and then on top of that, as far as the gameplay goes, you're not really going to see anything too new. They stay pretty safe in terms of gameplay mechanics. As far as story, I won't really spoil it, but I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I would like to see more closure to the story, and I think a lot of other Diablo fans wanted to see a little bit more with the campaign as far as like what happens at the end of it, because it kind of leads up to another expansion basically, without really spoiling things. But I still think that there is some great storytelling. Everything is for the most part voice acted, so they did put effort into the campaign. If you are interested in like kind of like a story in a campaign, there is one there, and it is decently long, again, especially for the price. Now there's also a brand new class called the Spiritborn, which is only accessible if you actually purchase the expansion. But the main thing that I personally really got out of the expansion, and what a lot of like the hardcore Diablo players, the people that want to dump hundreds and thousands of hours into this game, what they really got was essentially these rune words. These runes are like these little, like, think of it kind of like these little stones that you put into areas where there is 2 sockets. You have an activator, and then you kind of have like your special like power that you get with the runes. And these will 100% increase your power in terms of survivability, damage, or some sort of utility with your character's build. So this one over here is called Sem, is one of the runes, and then Se is the other one. So Sem is one rune and Se is another. How it works is you get an item with 2 sockets, then you get 1 rune for an activator. I'm going to select one that'll be a little bit easier for people to maybe understand. So this one requires you to cast a skill with a cooldown, which will gain your character what's called Offering. Once you reach whatever the invocation rune requires you, like some of them require, let's say 100, some of them are 600, they require certain thresholds to be met. This one could be simple. Once you get a 100 offering, it will reduce your active cooldowns by 0.1 second. So there's a lot of these. You can have up to 2 rune words on a character. Like right now we have currently 3. So this one over here, when I would use my evade skill, 2 times, because that's how much it's requiring, I'm going to summon a Spirit Wolf Companion. Now, I'll be real, this one kind of sucks for a lot of classes, but there are some classes that can take advantage of it because it activates a debuff on the enemy. This one over here requires us to move a certain amount of distance, and then it's going to activate a skill from another class. This is actually really cool. If you've ever played Diablo 2, these aren't really the same as like Diablo 2 Runewords. It's kind of more simple. You get one thing that has a condition and then an activator, and that's essentially where like the build diversity kind of goes. To be fair though, I want to say that you kind of been running the same ones for a long time. It's pretty much like running Cax, you run Ohm, you can run Vex. There's a couple that people run, but there's a lot that people simply don't use because they're just not meta. And that's totally fine, and I want to say there's probably going to be more rune words that eventually get added into the game as far as the future goes, but this is the thing that I was really the most excited about, as this area over here does allow you to have a little bit more fun, and you can try to make things that are kind of normally unachievable because you're getting a character skill from another class. This is the coolest part of the expansion, at least from a viewpoint of someone that really likes to play this game a lot. We also get these mercenaries, but I'm going to be real, as far as like these mercenaries go, they're relatively weak. If you've ever played Diablo 2, the mercenaries were really strong. They actually had like a cool skills tree system, and you can get them to taunt, you can get extra armor or resistances, but the one big downside is that like if you're in a group, which to be honest, you're going to want to play Diablo 4 in a group, especially towards the end of the game because it's just more efficient to farm that way. But you then lose out on your hired mercenary. You then get what's called a reinforcement mercenary, which can be activated once a condition is met. But they're so small, honestly, it doesn't really matter. These are mercenaries that can give you a very, very small DPS boost. It's really not worth talking about too much, but if you're playing solo, by all means, it's not bad at all to have the mercenary. But again, don't expect it to really change up your gameplay. So the real question is, do you need Vessel of Hatred? So I'm going to go over like the main things that actually matter. So the number one was the runes, which I already showed you guys some of the combos. There are some meta ones that can give you like 100x damage, but it's only for like 1 second on a condition. There's other ones that can give you ranks to your skills, which would be more damage, more utility. These are all great things, and I think this is the main thing that I kind of want to focus in on in terms of having fun. This area over here is the main thing that I would say you're going to have the most fun with, is the Runewords. Now, as far as the other class, you're seeing the brand new class right here. The name of the class is called the Spiritborn. If you're wondering what kind of playstyle is it, well, surprisingly, it's a really fast, agile class, but that it's also very, very tanky. So there's like kind of like two benefits to this class. You could do just regular damage, but they also have the ability to do thorns, and they have the ability to do damage over time, and they also have the ability to do overpower. So they kind of have a lot going for them in terms of like what you can build the class into, but for the most part, honestly, the most meta ones have been pretty much running what's called Quill Volley, which is what you're seeing. So you shoot out these feathers and then they kind of come back. It's kind of like a short-ranged playstyle. It is a dexterity-based class, but that's kind of the class fantasy. I really want to say that there's anything super similar. Some people have kind of compared it to Monk because you can kind of teleport with the class. But for the most part, I would say that it is like a fast class. It does feel very tanky, and it's actually a pretty strong class as well. At least currently, right now in the game, it is currently like the #1 class. But I wouldn't say that, don't make the decision of, oh, this is the best class in the game, I gotta buy the expansion, because more than likely you probably don't care about being the #1 player. And the differences between at least going through the campaign and at least doing Tormented 4 content, which, to be honest, Blizzard said only 10% of players even make it to Torment 4. So don't worry too much about that. I would say the most important thing is like, do you like what the class does for its playstyle? Again, this is kind of what you're looking at for majority of builds. It plays very similar to lots of variants of Quill Volley. But as far as the mercenary, yeah, I'm going to say it's so small, it's not a big deal. I will also link some videos down below in case any of you guys want to like learn how do these mercenaries work and stuff. Yeah, I would recommend checking that out. So the campaign, as far as it goes, it depends how slow you are. Like, I actually really like hearing like the dialogue, but if you want to just skip, you can do that. It depends how fast your build is too. I would say it's about 8-ish hours. It can go longer or shorter depending on if you're skipping content, if you're doing some of the side quests and stuff. And genuinely, a lot of Diablo players kind of just rush through the campaign. And while that's cool, there is actually a lot of lore as well as really cool side quests. If you want to do a lot of the side quests, I highly recommend you guys to check that out, because there is cool stuff in there. There's cool like kind of stories that unfold by just doing, again, some of these side quests are really cool. There's also these Undercity tributes, but they're like relatively small. Like, you're not going to be able to access them, so you can basically get some extra forms of loot, but it really doesn't matter too much. Like, it's so small that I would say it's not that big of a deal. There is technically a Mythic one, which gets you some of the most rare items in the game, which, again, you wouldn't have access to what's called the Undercity. If you guys want to see what the Undercity is, let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. So what it looks like over here is you have this area that you'll go to, and there's a little progress bar. It's kind of like a greater rift, but you got to click on these little things. The bar builds up. Eventually you get to a boss, and then you fight the boss. It's really not that much of a challenge. There are newer bosses, and some of these do have boss mechanics where, like, you're supposed to sit behind this area here. Let me go ahead and show you guys one of the bosses. It's not really a spoiler, but as far as like the boss goes. But you go to the boss, and he does this move where you're supposed to kind of sit behind these pillars, but you're going to probably do so much DPS if you run like a really good build that like the boss is just going to get one-shotted. But that's kind of the Undercity, and again, I wouldn't really worry too much about like this form of content, but it is something that is there. The one thing that I actually think is way cooler, and that it's actually different from the gameplay, this is one of the coolest things in Diablo 4 if you experience it one time. So if you guys want to check out like what a Citadel is, I'll show you guys what that looks like. Again, I will link one down below. But pretty much what it comes down to is there are mechanics. Someone has to grab this object and put it in a certain area. There's like this boss that you have to like reflect something It's not really good for farming loot. It's actually terrible for it because it's really bad that you have to actually get a group for this. This cannot be done solo, but there are brand new bosses and there are really cool experiences. But the problem that I have with it is you only want to do it one time, because after that, the magic is kind of over and it's not good to get loot. So I wouldn't really recommend you guys to think about like doing that as far as endgame content, even though I kind of expected raids to be a form of endgame content, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't really make it endgame content. The reason why is like once you learn how these boss mechanics work, it's not as exciting. Again, it's super fun one time and one time only, and there's a couple different of these raids. They're called the Dark Citadels, but again, you cannot do these solo. So if you're like, I'm a solo player, well, you're out of luck. You literally cannot do this. So just as a heads up. But yeah, again, I know I'm saying it several times, but I think it was one of the coolest things that they added to the game. Even though it's a one-time experience, I liked it. It was really cool. But I already mentioned that you can access the bottom part of the map. So again, this is like the bottom part of the map. Sometimes there is also like a hell tide in the area, or there could be some other like bonus objectives in the area. But again, I would say your endgame content in Diablo 4, at least in the current game state, this video is made, by the way, in Season 9, you basically are doing Nightmare Dungeons for Undercity and then doing Pit for glyph leveling. If you want to farm loot, then you just do the Tormented bosses again and again. And while some of the areas may be inaccessible, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. You can still get all the loot in the game. The loot isn't going to be where if you don't have the expansion, you cannot get the loot. You obviously cannot get the loot for the other class that you are not playing because, well, it's not going to drop. You're not going to get Spiritborn items if you're playing a Barbarian, unless it's a glitch, which sometimes this game has glitches, whatever. But you're not going to get, the loot for the class that you don't play. So here's my ultimate suggestion, kind of to round off the video, because I already mentioned kind of what is essentially there. There are also some bosses and some other like cool mechanics that are in the campaign that you can kind of do again, but for the most part, again, it's not something where I would say you're going to do like these things again and again. The main important thing in the game is doing, again, your pits as well as Nightmare Dungeons, which got a massive buff in Season 9. My suggestion is to play the base game first and see if you like the game, because I know that sometimes it goes free for a while and some people want to check out the game and they're like, do I need to buy the expansion to really experience it? With this game, I would say you don't need to do that at all. I would really recommend you guys to try out all the classes for like an hour each, and the reason why is you may play one class and be like, this game is kind of mid, whatever. But if you play another class, you might be like, dude, I really like how you can summon these like skeleton warriors. I really like how you can teleport. I like how you can do this. The classes feel a lot different, and that starts out a lot slower for certain classes. Like the Barbarian could be a little bit slower of a class, whereas the Rogue, you start getting your dash early on, you get Shadow Step, and it starts to feel really good. And the progression definitely does matter on what you're getting as drops, right? Because if you're not getting good drops, well, that's part of the game. It's just the randomness, and maybe that one aspect, which is a drop a legendary item, will actually change up a skill to perform the way you want it to. And so sometimes you got to kind of look out build guides, and you have to look at like, what does the end game look like for this character class? That way you can decide for yourself, do I want to build this class? It's actually kind of an interesting thing. Before even starting to play, I'm actually recommending you guys to watch the Spiritborn, watch the end game, which is what I'm showing you guys right here. Watch the class, see how it performs, and if you like it, then obviously you can maybe think about getting the expansion. But some classes do feel way better earlier on, and it's also kind of a preference. Not everyone's going to feel like, every single build is going to suit whatever their class fantasy is. Maybe they want to be ranged, maybe they want to be melee, maybe they want to just summon minions and kind of chill back. But I would also say that this is a game where you kind of need to read things. If you're more of like a casual gamer and you don't really want to invest a bunch of time, you could definitely complete the campaign and have some fun with it. But I would say this game is really designed for people that like to read. I don't know if any of you guys have played Gauntlet Legends, but that was like a game that I really liked. But then like after playing Diablo, where you can get loot and it would change your character, like that changed up how I saw like games in general. I like collecting loot and reading, what does this item do? How can I combine it with this to, make certain things happen? So this is a game where it will require a little bit of brain activity, and sometimes people want to just tune out, and that's not really where this game will excel. The game can be played like that, but if you really want to invest more time into it, you're going to feel more rewarded, which is going to require you to read, look up guides, and, well, obviously if you're watching this, then you're obviously interested in, maybe learning more about the game. So I would say that if you just want kind of a chill game, you can eventually get to that point. Like once your build is strong enough, you could look at your screen like once every 5 seconds, you can like do something else while also playing this game because you're just farming for like either materials or just levels. But it can be a chill experience. You just have to know what you need to put into your build to make it that way. And also I want to say, if you've played this and you've made it to the end game and you got like 200 Paragon points, more than likely you're probably enjoying the game. And at that point, like, the expansion would be worth it because then you could experience a new class. I mean, there's so many more hours that you can put into this game. Like, I've got thousands of hours in this game. So for me personally, if you're asking is it worth it, as a Diablo fan, I'm going to obviously say yes. Well, I would say I wish there was more in terms of like the closure to the story and them taking more risks to the action RPG genre. At least from my viewpoint, I like to see games innovate. Like Diablo 3 did a really good job with the Kanai's Cube. That was really big brain, really cool stuff. The Runewords in this, well, they are kind of cool. It's kind of like lighthearted, I would say, in terms of like, you know, creativity, in terms of like what can you do and how many more builds open up. But I would still say, for me personally, I enjoyed it. I played the campaign. I did all of the raids. I've done every single thing that you could do in this game. Again, I got hundreds of hours into this. So for me, in terms of value, it was 1000% worth it. And then I also want to mention that the expansion isn't going to make people who don't like the base game suddenly like it. Like, maybe you may enjoy the Spiritborn a little bit more than the other classes, but the core gameplay is relatively the same. I mean, you could take Flurry Rogue, which you can just have as a class where you can teleport and attack, which is kind of how like the Spiritborn really feels good. When you can teleport on every single attack and like do your move, it just feels really good. This is like a crushing fist over here. You can see you can go crazy with damage here. But I would say the game essentially feels the same. It's not going to really change up your gameplay style, but the expansion does not really do anything crazy other than the runes. That is, again, the main thing that I kind of focused in on in the very beginning, where I was talking about, yeah, you can get these little runes, these little like stones, you put it in your different, you can get, again, 2 combos here. That's essentially what you get out of it in terms of like your long hundreds of hours. But if you're just there for the campaign, there is a campaign, and for the most part, I would say that majority of people will have some enjoyment with at least the quality of the campaign. Again, everything's voice acted. They did put a lot of effort into it, but as far as it goes, I would love to see more expansions in the future, and we already have another expansion confirmed. So if you're like worried about, is this game going to go anywhere anytime soon? No, we've got lots more content. They said this game was going to go on for 10 years, so we've got lots more content in the future, and it'll be kind of good to maybe get a step ahead right now, and you can kind of lock and play, and then if you get kind of burnt out, maybe you can check out the game once the other expansion comes out. But that's going to wrap it up. So overall, it comes down to, you know, if you are already enjoying the game, I would say, yeah, you can lock in and get it. But if you don't enjoy the current state of the game, I do not think the expansion is going to be something that would be even on your radar to consider. But anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, subscribe, turn on the bell if you guys want to see more content. I'll catch you gamers in the next video. Peace out.